Holy shit, I'm hearing voices. And I was looking in the mirror behind you, and you were talking to me, and I happened to look up in the mirror, and I saw my entire face transform into a horse. Do you remember that? When I was...
Welcome back to Your Friends podcast with Megan and Pablo. And today I have one of my dear friends, Liv. We're starting off the bat with our famous Shroom trip that we had about, I want to say 8 months ago.
God, feels like forever.
It literally feels like forever.
Also yesterday at the same time.
Definitely.
I will definitely never forget that trip.
Me neither. It was my most crazy trip.
Definitely.
Because so many things were happening. It was just so poorly planned.
So
Which was my fault, by the way.
I think it ended up for the better, though. I mean, we would not have gone through as much as we did if, it hadn't turned out that way.
We started shrooming at where I lived at the time. I was living in downtown Sac. I was living at my brother's, who, by the way, was 42 years old, my half-brother, who I've only met like 3 times in my entire life. And my relatives just thought that was like a good thing to do. Like, yeah, that's not weird at all. Anyways, despite the age difference, it was all right. But, not the best place to have a shroom trip since I didn't really know him that well.
Right, but you didn't think he was going to be home, though.
That's true. I totally was under the impression he was going to be gone because he told me that. And then he was there, and I was like, oh, fuck, this is about to be interesting. Because whenever around people I don't really want to be around when I'm on shrooms, I get just weird.
It can totally change your trip.
It totally throws off the vibes.
Totally, yeah.
We bought a scale, this like little cute scale.
Yeah.
We weighed them out, and we had like 4 grams each.
Yeah, 4 grams each.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a fucking lot.
I didn't realize it was that much until I was talking to somebody else who does shrooms regularly. Yeah. And they said that that's a lot. We set the timer.
We set a timer.
And it was like 45 minutes, right?
Honestly.
But it started kicking in like
25 minutes.
Yeah, first 15, 20 minutes.
And that's the crazy thing, because every other time I've taken shrooms, they've taken like 2 to 3 hours to kick in. This time, I started tripping at 25 minutes after I ate these shrooms. And that's when I knew I was fucked. and that this was going to be an interesting ride.
You know how the come up is like always really intense?
Yes.
I remember just looking at you and being like, are you tripping? Because I think it started. It's getting a little intense here.
I felt like that whole day we were constantly on the same page.
Yeah, definitely.
Our minds were linked.
Exactly, yeah.
And
same level.
We just knew what was going on. That's always fun to have that nice communication.
Right.
Because then if I'm thinking something, I just look at you and make a certain face, and like, oh, we got to get out of here. We got to do whatever.
Yeah.
We're coming up on these shrooms in my room, and we're kind of like pacing back and forth, like, oh, what do we do? Do we go outside? Little anxiety starting to kick in.
Right.
We ended up going outside in the backyard and painting. And we drew some very interesting paintings while we were coming up on these shrooms.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
So I brought mine here today, and I think that everyone deserves to see this.
Beautiful.
And here we are. It is an eyeball with a sun and what looks like a little Horton Hears a Who tree.
Very pretty.
When you look at this, what did you think I was feeling?
I felt that we were on the same wavelength for a minute because, we were for most of the trip. But especially when we were painting, because I was looking over, we were doing completely different things. But we both had the same energy putting into it, And we were both using bright colors.
Yes.
And just kind of, like, going with it, We didn't really stop to think about what we wanted. We were just putting it right there on the page,
Exactly.
As an artist, I normally, sit there and I have to think for 30 minutes to an hour before I start a project. because, you know, I got to think about and really picture what I want to make. But on shrooms, I mean, I was just slapping it on.
Yeah, you just go, go, go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what shrooms is. Your thoughts are going a million miles a minute.
Oh, yeah.
You just have all these thoughts, and it's kind of hard to focus on one sometimes.
Right.
But we definitely did paint two different things.
Yeah. But they gave off the same energy.
They did. And something that I just noticed, so I use like browns, yellows, kind of tan color scheme, and you use green, purple, and blue.
Right.
And when we were peaking on shrooms, I remember looking at you and saying to you, Liv, you're giving off this aura of purple and blue. And you were telling me that I was giving off a brown, tan,
like
yellow.
earthy tones.
Yes.
Yeah, like you were like rooted in the earth.
And I just noticed those are the tones that we both painted with.
That's crazy.
We both like knew our auras.
That's insane.
That's insane.
You know, I knew that the trip was going to be fun when we started walking around the backyard, and I was in socks. And I mean, the grass was so tall, and I was just touching everything, and I felt like I was in like one of those giant fields that you see in movies and everything. And we were just in the backyard, and I was looking up at the sky, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And I walked out. My pants and my socks were covered in like bristles, and I had been stepping on things, didn't even notice it. I had all those pointy sticks and everything in my feet, did not even care at all.
We literally went on an adventure. We both were not wearing shoes. We were wearing our socks. And mind you, this backyard is huge. Like, it's pretty big. And this grass was as tall as we are.
Yeah.
And we were just walking through this grass, just getting shit all over us. We did not care. We were touching everything. We were just like, I want to touch the grass. I want to touch that tree.
Right.
And just letting our imaginations take control.
Right.
And then after that, we wanted to walk more.
Well, no, so,
right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what I remember is, like, we were sitting there painting, right? And then I was still coming up pretty hard. And I was getting kind of intense. And I was nervous that your brother was there because I'd never talked to him before.
Yeah.
I'd never met this man. And I was like, I'd only heard things about him from you, you know? So that was kind of making me nervous a little bit. Not that he was going to do anything or bother us. But I remember seeing him, like, walk around. And I was like, whoa, wait. Hold on, this isn't right. You know, I was like, he doesn't know me. I'm tripping my balls off.
Yeah.
And I just had no idea what to do. So I started freaking out, and I was like, I feel like we should get out of here. And you're like, okay, let's go for a walk.
What a great idea.
What a great idea. It's what is it? It was a Saturday, wasn't it? It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon in downtown Sacramento. And we decided, all right, let's go for a walk. So we get out of the house. We're walking down the street, right? And I'm calming down, because I was really freaking out for a minute. I was about to have a bad trip. I was, you know, and you were there for me. I mean, like you were talking about earlier with the facial expressions, you looked at me and immediately were like, it's okay. I'm here. I'm right on your level. We're both tripping really hard. Just take a deep breath, you know?
Yes.
And you kept me centered the whole time. So we keep walking, right? And we get to the park. And I look up, and we're standing there at the edge of the park. And it's a Saturday afternoon. So it seems like everyone in Sacramento was at this park. I mean, to tell you the amount of pressure I felt on my chest, do you remember I was like, I need to sit down. Yes. I sat down on the grass right there. And there were people with their windows open in the car right next to us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they were laughing at us because we were like, whoa.
Yes, I could feel them like laughing and pointing.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I think we need to get out of here. Neither of us can drive, clearly.
Yeah.
So did not know what we were going to do there. So I called Lavelle, and I was like, hey, he's my best friend at the time, other than you, of course. And he's my best male friend. And I call him, and I was like, listen, I don't care if you're busy. I'm pulling the best friend card. I need you to come pick me up no matter what you're doing right now and take me home. And he was like, okay, are you safe? And I was like, yeah, I'm just tripping my ass off, and we're not okay. I need to go home right now. And he was like, I'm in the middle of moving my girlfriend in. I'm like, we can't leave. I'm sweating right now. And I was like, I don't care. I'm laying down the card, man. You got to come pick me up.
Yeah.
You know I would do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pulling it. And he was like, okay, I'll be there in 15. So we go back to your house, put all of we had like 7 bags.
We had so much shit.
We had so many things because I brought everything I could possibly think of that I would want on a Shroom trip. Didn't use any of it, of course. Didn't even touch my bags. So I just grabbed them, you know, and I have like 4 or 5 bags. We look like we're fucking backpackers walking through downtown Sacramento. And I sent him my location when I was at the park. So he was going to pick us up at the park. So we had to walk back to the park to find him. And he was like, okay, I'm here. But he wasn't in his car. So I was scared, not knowing where he was. And he was like, Liv, look to your left. I look over, and there he is and his girlfriend in the car with all the windows down. And they were like, come on. And his girlfriend was laughing at us because of all of our bags. She was like, what are you guys doing? Just walking down the street with what looks to be your entire wardrobe. And we get in the car. That car trip.
Oh my God, Liv. That was the most chaotic car trip ever.
Oh my God. I mean, that would be insane, like completely sober.
Yes.
Not to mention on shrooms.
Oh, exactly.
No.
Exactly my thoughts.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, you know, make a regular conversation and be like a normal, regular me, which is completely impossible when I'm tripping on 4 grams of shrooms.
Yes.
Right. And Lavelle's being his normal self, and his girlfriend starts driving. All the windows are down. And when I say this woman drives like a bat out of hell, that car was like, oh my God, she was not slowing down for turns. Nothing. And they both knew that we were tripping really hard too.
Yeah.
We get on the interstate, windows still down, and this woman will not leave more than 3 feet between her and the car in front of her. Yeah. And we're going 65, 70, maybe 80 miles an hour, you know, because she's in a hurry to get back to moving in.
Yeah.
You know, because she's taking time out of her day to come pick up these 2 freaking, I don't know. And oh my God, that I just remember trying to talk, and the wind in the car. I mean, all the windows were down from the interstate. Yeah. She was driving like a maniac.
Freaking maniac.
And we finally pull up to Academy 65.
Finally, of what seemed like forever.
My God. It took forever. And it was maybe a 10-minute car ride, if that.
If that, yeah.
Probably not even.
It felt like an eternity.
Yeah. It probably wasn't even that, because you lived like 8 minutes away from me. So it was probably 5 by the way she was driving.
That's so true.
But it took forever in my head.
So
we get out, get all of our things, you know. And I remember vividly being like, Lavelle, look at this painting I showed you. I mean, I painted. He goes, yeah, Liv, you showed me that 3 times in like the last 5 minutes.
That's so funny.
He's like, it's really cool. I'll talk to you later. Get out.
I didn't know that. That's so funny.
Yeah. He was like, okay, get out. Like, we have to go. So we get out, right? And it's starting to feel a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
Walk in to my building. And I know you remember this because this moment will forever stick in my brain. Walking into that building in the lobby that me and you have been in over 1,000 times.
Literally. We've
been in that lobby so many times, but I think the day before they switched around like one piece of furniture.
Yeah.
And we walked in, and when I say it was walking into another universe, it was like a parallel universe. It was all familiar and completely different at the same time.
It was literally like we were in a parallel universe.
Exactly. And we were noticing like things in the lobby that we had never seen before.
Yeah.
Like those little guys climbing on the wall, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the color of things, and it just looked completely different.
Everything was different.
Yeah. I don't remember the elevator ride at all.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a pivotal moment.
Right.
That would be like, whoa, we're in an elevator.
Right.
But I have no recollection of that.
I think we were so much had happened in so little time. I mean, we were only like an hour or 2 into our trip.
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
So much happened in such little time.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming.
So overwhelming. Do you remember what happened as soon as we got into my door? I mean, I was so anxious. I ran to the door. I'm like fidgeting with the keys to get it unlocked. I'm like, I just need to get home.
Yeah.
I know as soon as I get in here, everything is going to be okay. The trip's going to go right back up, because I was spiraling. Especially after that car trip, I was terrified.
Me too. I was going down a bad trip.
Same. Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely started out as not a great trip.
Yeah.
Well, okay, wait. It started out good, then kind of went downhill. It was a roller coaster for sure. So
I know exactly what you're going to say.
So we get inside and we walk in, and my apartment looks like 15 times bigger. I mean, it looked like a warehouse. You know, it's not a big apartment, but it looked like a freaking warehouse. And I immediately run, and we both collapsed on the carpet, and we could not stop laughing. I mean, It was impossible to stop. We would stop for a second, catch our breath, look at each other, and just go right back into it. I looked at the time after. We laughed for a solid, 45 minutes.
Oh, my God.
No kidding. And we were rolling around laughing. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
My whole face and neck was so wet from crying.
Yeah. I mean, we were, crying and yelling and laughing and just rolling around on this carpet. And my roommate had just gotten this cat. We did not own a vacuum. And so when we looked up, we had brought up all of this dust and cat hair, and it was just floating in the air, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, God. And both of us immediately got, stuffed up. You know, we're not allergic to cats, but we got stuffed up, and we were, sneezing and coughing for a minute, and that's what stopped the laughing. Was getting all stopped up, and our nose started running, and we were like, oh, that's nasty.
Yes.
That's nasty. And
my stomach felt so good when we were laughing.
Yeah.
Getting all that laugh and tears out from that shroom trip was felt so relieving.
Yeah, I've never laughed that hard in my entire life. And you know me, I love to laugh. I laugh at almost anything. You don't have to be funny to make me laugh.
Same.
Right. So, I laugh a lot. But when I say that was the most genuine, hearty, from your stomach laugh, and it lasted forever too. I mean, I just could not stop. Because we were processing everything that had just happened to us. Yes. And we could not believe all of the things we had just been through in the last hour and a half.
Back when we were at my brother's house, you remember Chowder, right?
Yes.
I miss Chowder so much. So Chowder is the fattest corgi, fattest cardigan corgi that you've ever seen. Cutest little guy ever. And right before we left, I was talking to my brother, and you know how nervous I was to talk to him since I was just tripping balls.
Right.
So I go up to him, and I'm like, hey, we're going to go to Liv's apartment. I am talking to this man, and I feel like he is a black hole of negative energy. Wow. And I felt this before when I've done a shroom trip with this girl who was super negative. It literally felt like he was sucking me into a black hole, right? And then I was looking at Chowder, the little dog, his dog, and I was watching Chowder age from a puppy to a grown dog. Wow. Like an old-ass dog with gray hairs, and I was just watching this on shrooms, and I'm just like, oh, my God. And I shit you not, right in that moment, I knew that I wasn't going to see Chowder grow old. Wow. And a month later, I ended up moving out of my brother's house because he's a piece of shit. Yeah. But, yeah, it's crazy. Shrooms was like, oh, I'm never going to watch Chowder grow up. And I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but watching Chowder age from a puppy to an old dog was so funny to me. Also sad, but it's just, so insane that all happened.
Yeah. I remember, after we finished laughing and, I got all cleaned up, because I was covered in hair, I had to change clothes. Took me forever to change clothes, because I could not decide what to wear. Everything looked different.
Yeah.
And it did not look right, and it's hard to look in the mirror. A lot of people say don't look in the mirror when you're tripping, but I love looking in the mirror because I have it already set in my brain. This isn't who I am. Yeah. This isn't permanent. What I'm looking at isn't real. It's just fun. Yeah. And I just get to see maybe what my face could look like. So you were sitting at the bar, right? And I was standing in the kitchen, and behind you was a mirror. And I was looking in the mirror behind you, and you were talking to me, and I happened to look up in the mirror, and I angled my face slightly, this way. And I saw my entire face transform into a horse. Do you remember that? When I was I had to stop the conversation. I said, wait, what? Hold on. And I turned back, and it was gone. you know, but every time I did this, it was a horse, a full, like BoJack Horseman.
Oh my God. I totally remember you saying that word for word. Like, I just look in the mirror and I look like a horse.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? The image of you with the blue and purple colors coming off you, and you looked like a goddess.
Oh.
like a mermaid goddess. Like, that's exactly what I was picturing you as the whole time we were on shrooms. I was like, Liv is a mermaid goddess. Like, okay. All right. Cool.
You know, it's so funny. I saw you as, like, my center. Like every bad thought that I had, I would look at you and it immediately disappeared. You know, and I was like, okay, she's my center. Like, you know how I was telling you about, like, the earthy tones?
Yes.
That's what I felt like you were grounding me, you know, in the best way.
I love
and
that.
I felt like I could just, like, come back down to earth for a minute, even though I'm tripping my ass off. And I'm just, you know, freaking out. My head is going a million miles an hour. Every time I looked at you, I felt like your brainwaves were just telling me, like, take a deep breath, slow it down. Like, you're okay. I'm right there with you. You know, like, you just had that grounding energy just, like, coming off of you in waves. And I would not have been able to make it through that trip without you.
Oh, I would be dead.
Definitely.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like, not only are you grounding, but you were so encouraging and supportive that whole time. And the fact that we were constantly on the same page was just so awesome.
Right.
Because, I mean, I don't have that connection with a lot of people. I've done shrooms with a lot of different people, and I've never really felt like I was on the same exact page with someone to that level, to that extent. And to have that was just so calming and so like, okay, I will be okay because I have a friend with me.
Right, we've got each other.
Exactly. It's so much better than doing shrooms alone.
Right.
I've never done shrooms alone. That's scary.
I've done acid alone. The first time I ever did it. What? Can I tell you about that?
Yes, I would love to hear about that.
Okay. So it's in the beginning of COVID. And I'm grounded, obviously, you know, because I wanted to go out. My parents were like, hell no, you're not leaving the house. Don't be a dumbass. So, you know, I was bored out of my mind. And we were out of school. I think it was like a weekend or something. I can't remember what it was. But I had a ton of free time, and I was bored just getting high and watching TV. So I was like, I need something else to do. And I was talking to my friend on the phone. She said, okay, get some acid. And I was like, well, I've never done that before. You know, that's scary. I can't do that by myself. And she said, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just call me if you need anything. So she drops off like this little tin foil in my mailbox, and I Venmo'd her. And I pick it up, and it's like this little itty bitty piece of paper. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Did I just get ripped off? And I call her up, and I was like, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this? And she said, put it on your tongue, wait until it completely dissolves, give it a few minutes, and then swallow it. And then, you know, set a timer for yourself and just wait until the effects kick in. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, here we go.
Here we go.
You know, my parents weren't home for the beginning of the day, and so I was fine. And then they got home unexpectedly, and I was like, okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm just going to, you know, go for a walk. So I went out in my backyard, and when you go back the fence, you have to, like, go through these, like, crazy woods with all these bushes and stuff, and I had to fight my way through it, right? And I get to the railroad tracks, and it starts to hit me. It starts to really hit me, and I start coming up. And I'm walking the railroad tracks. And I'm like, okay, which way do I decide? And I start talking to my friend, you know, and I've got a pack of cigarettes. I was fiending for nicotine. I never smoked cigarettes, but I only needed them, you know, because I really needed some nicotine at the time. So I pull out a cigarette. I'm smoking it. I'm FaceTiming her, and I'm talking, and I walk one way, and it's really pretty. But then I see a park, and I see all of these parents and their kids, because it's a Saturday afternoon, of course. And, you know, they're all in the park. And then I see this kid look up and point at me and say, Mommy, there's someone on the railroad tracks, which is illegal. It's very illegal to be walking on the railroad tracks, if you didn't know that. Yeah.
What?
It's very illegal.
Is it illegal in every state?
Yeah, it's illegal to be on the railroad tracks. I think so.
How did I not know that?
I know. I didn't know it for a while either, but I was walking on them so much, I was like, So I looked it up one day. And turns out it was completely, utterly illegal, and you can get a hefty fine for that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So I'm walking on the railroad tracks, right? And this little kid points me out. And I'm like, okay, this is illegal. I should go. So I start walking in the opposite direction. I've never walked in that direction before, so I had no idea where I was going. And I see this bridge, and it's got a lot of graffiti under it. And I'm like, okay, the trees are breathing, so I assume graffiti would look cool, right? So I start walking up, and I see this homeless man come out of his tent from under the bridge, and he starts walking towards me, and he's like, hey. And I said, hey. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just walking along the railroad tracks. Would you like a smoke? And he said, sure. So I gave him a cigarette and lit him up. And we just sat there under the bridge. And we talked for 2.5 hours. It started raining, and I had no idea. I had no idea it was raining. I was sitting there looking at the graffiti, and he was telling me he was a Vietnam vet.
Oh, shit.
And he was telling me about all of these stories, and he'd been living under that bridge for like 10 years. And he has like 20 kids.
What?
Yeah, he was telling me all of these different stories.
He's got more than Future and Young Thug.
I know. I was like, okay, this is this wise man, right? So I started asking him real questions. I'm like, okay, have you ever been in love? What's true love about? Tell me.
That's a great question.
I know, right? I'm like, okay, you're wise. You know what's up. So give me the secrets. Have you ever been in true love? I mean, is it real? What happens? And, he was talking about it, and I can't remember all of it. It was a really long time ago. It was like 3 years ago, I think. And, it was really interesting. And I got a call from my stepmom, and she says, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, I'm just walking along the railroad tracks. And she was like, well, you need to come back because it's pouring rain and you've been gone for 2.5 hours. So you need to come back home immediately. And I was like, okay. And so this guy's name is Lewis, right? And I was like, all right, Lewis, well, I've got to go. He was like, okay. So don't walk on these railroad tracks anymore because there's this guy who walks up and down them, and he's not mentally right. I actually ended up getting beat up by that guy later on. Yeah, because I didn't follow Lewis's advice. And Lewis wasn't there. But, yeah, that was different. That's a whole nother story.
Shit.
But, anyway, so I go home, and I walk in the house, and everything is beautiful. My stepmom really loved art, so there was a lot of paintings around, and they were really cool. Ooh. And I was staring at them, and my dad made my favorite dinner I've ever had. It was like tilapia. It was like lemon tilapia and asparagus. And when I tell you, like, these flavors exploded in my mouth. I mean, I was like, rah, rah, rah. I mean, I ate the whole thing so fast. My parents were just sitting there looking at me like, are you high? And I was like, no, I'm not high. And they're like, you definitely smoked. And I was like, I didn't smoke, actually. I might be high, but I didn't smoke.
I might be high on something else.
Right. And I was like, no, genuinely, I'm not lying this time. I didn't smoke. And they did not believe me. And they were like, all right, well, when you're done, go to your room. Because they just did not believe me. They were really strict.
Were they always trying to catch you for smoking?
Oh, yeah. They did my whole life. I mean, I was grounded all the time. And, I mean, granted, I was a shit child. I never followed the rules. I was constantly lying and sneaking out. And I have so many stories from living in that house. I mean, it was like a prison. Every time a door opened, it went beep, 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 even when the alarm wasn't on. Not to mention at night, every window, every door, if you opened it, it would go, meh, meh, and the police would be called, the fire department, because our neighbors got robbed. We lived in downtown Atlanta. So, we had to have that security. And anyway, so I go into my room, and at this time, my parents had taken off my door. So I had no door. I know.
Dude.
Granted, I deserved it. They gave me plenty of warnings. They were like, listen, if you keep doing this, we will take off your door. So my door was gone. And I'm tripping on acid. And I didn't give a flying I turned on music, and I was dancing around my room, and I had tapestries all over my room, and I was laying on my bed upside down, staring at them and giggling to myself. And I was just listening to music, and I was dancing and flailing my arms around. And my parents, I remember vividly, like, stopping and seeing my parents looking at me from the kitchen, and they were both like, is she okay?
Is this bitch tripping?
Right. And I was like, yes, I am tripping very hard. Anyway, so that's the story of my first time. But you said you remembered something from our first trip.
Yes. So when we were really high on shrooms and we were in your room, so the first thing you put on was Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
We had never seen that before.
Yeah, we had never watched it before, and we put it on, and I'm pretty sure this is a mutual feeling, but it definitely, when we were watching, we felt like everything we were looking at was so fake.
So fake. Nothing about it was real.
Nothing. Like, it felt so non-authentic.
Yeah, they could have been robots.
Yeah, straight up robots. Like,
Nothing about their life was real. Nothing.
yeah, it felt so wrong to be
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, it did.
But then the next thing you put on was the show called Cake.
Oh, God, I love Cake.
Now, if you don't know what Cake is, it's this fucked up show, and it is awesome,
It's awesome.
and it's really f***ing trippy. And there
It's
was
like-
this one specific scene where this guy was like, he was going on all these Tinder dates with all these women,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually, like, he goes on this date with himself, and he starts treating himself exactly how he treats all the women that he goes on dates with, which he just invites them over and then sleeps with him, and they're, like, left upset the next day when they leave.
Right.
And he did the same thing to himself, and then he starts fighting himself in the morning after they hooked up and he was trying to kick himself out, and they start fighting, and then he turns into the same person. And it's just like, so, I don't know what the message is there, but I know
think-
there's one.
You know, I think the message was definitely, I mean, it's the age-old message of treat people how you would want to be treated. You know, like, and people don't realize that, especially on, you know, dating apps.
Yeah.
You know, they're just trying to get, you know, the next.
Next hookup.
Yeah, the next hookup, that's the word I was looking for. But, yeah, to the next hookup, you know. And I've known a lot of guys who will just, I mean, they'll say and do anything.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they'll act like they're passionately in love with you just to get you in bed.
Totally.
And, you know, no one wants to be treated like that. Even the guys themselves. I remember I used to, like, flip it around for fuckboys. And I would be like, I would treat them how they would treat me. And they would get attached because they're like, wait, hold on. Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Why am I being treated like this? You know?
They get confused.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, no one's ever treated me like this before. I'm
Right.
getting a taste of my own medicine. I'm going to attach to you because, I mean, everyone wants what they can't have.
Right. And then they end up getting hurt. And you're like,
Yeah.
boom, bitch. Like, yeah, now you know what you've been doing.
What about the boys who, and right before they break up with you, they sleep with you? And it's like, why did you sleep with me if you were going to break up with me
Because they
right
wanted
after?
one more fuck.
Yeah. And it's always like,
Yeah.
it's always the best.
They're like,
Oh, okay.
all right, I know in my brain this is the last time, so I better give it all I've got.
Exactly.
You know? Give her something good to remember me by. So she says, I got some good dick.
Yeah.
You know, when she says, I'm a terrible person, but he's got some good dick.
Yeah, go and tell your friends. I have too many crazy ex stories.
Give me one, just one.
Okay. I told you about the time I got peed on, correct? Or no?
I don't think so.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
Have I not? Oh,
I
my
don't
God.
think so.
This is great. This is a great story. Okay. I was dating this guy, right?
Okay.
And I had gotten with him right after I gotten my heart shattered by this guy who I was infatuated with for like 3 years on and off. So I started dating him right in the beginning of COVID. And I started living with him and his family for like the first 3 months. He was 3 years older than me and was like going to a really nice university and is like super smart and whatever. And I thought he was a good guy,
Right.
but also
That's how they all start off.
oh yeah, always. And I wasn't drinking for the amount of time that we were together because I was sick all the time, like with strep throat, tonsillitis, you name it, I had it. He would drink a lot. And this one night when we were at his parents' house, they were asleep, and I was hanging out with him and his younger brother, who's my age. We were in the same class. What should I name him? I'll name him Pete, my
Pete.
boyfriend. I'll name my
Okay.
boyfriend Pete, and I'll name his brother Oliver.
Okay.
Pete and Oliver. So Pete, my boyfriend, started drinking a lot, just chugging bottles. Oliver and I were going through our yearbook because we were in the same, we just graduated. As we're flipping through the pages, we're sitting down. Pete comes over and starts spitting on me and
No.
spitting on the yearbook that me and his brother are looking through, and just starts like slapping the yearbook out of my hand, just like talking shit to me, like trying to get me angry, and he's clearly blacked out. He had like a wine bottle, a dark liquor bottle, and I voice recorded this entire night because I wanted him to like listen to it the next day and all
Right.
that.
That's so smart.
Yeah, because I was like, I know you piece of shit, you're not going to believe me, but I'm going to record it, and your brother's a witness too. So he kept spitting on me and like slapping shit out of my hand, and then he kept saying like, Megan, come here. And I would just be like, no. And then he starts calling me, like, the F-A word. Yeah. And, like, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I do not like when people use that word. I don't think people should ever use that word.
Mm-mm.
And especially being screamed at it by my boyfriend, I'm just like,
Jeez,
what
yeah.
the f are you on? And then Oliver and I are like, okay, we need to do something with him because he's going crazy. We finally get him to go to sleep on the couch in the living room. We make him bed, he falls asleep. Oliver and I are still talking for like an hour, and we're just talking about life. Also, Oliver tells me that he thinks himself is a sociopath while we were talking. I was like, okay, that's sick, Oliver.
Wait, Oliver thinks Pete is a sociopath, or Oliver thinks Oliver is a sociopath?
Oliver thinks Oliver is a sociopath.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, Oliver, let me deal with one issue at a time.
Right, yeah,
here.
that's a lot to lay on someone.
It was a lot. I was like, all right, cool. Let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to it. Because I got to deal with Pete on the couch right now. So Pete's on the couch. And then Oliver gets up and goes to bed. It's like 3 a.m. I decide to stand up, and I'm putting a blanket over Pete, like the thoughtful girlfriend I am.
Right, even though he doesn't deserve it.
Even though he doesn't deserve a blanket. And this man, this like 6'3" man, stands up and is just so fucking blacked out. Mind you, behind the couch, there's this huge, like, and next to the couch, there's this huge open window that you could just fall out of if you fall into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He gets up, he starts falling around. He's about to fall out this window and break it straight up.
Oh,
and I am the only thing keeping him upright from falling through this fucking window. And he weighs a lot. This man is tall.
Right.
And I'm looking up at him, and he starts making this face like he's about to throw up. And I'm like, oh no, he's going to throw up on me. So I'm focusing up at his face, and I'm like holding him. And then, as I'm looking up at his face, he whips out his wee-wee and starts pissing all over my fucking leg.
Oh,
all
my
over.
God.
Just all over me.
Like a dog.
Like a fucking dog. And then I sprint to the bathroom, wash that shit off, and I come back into the living room. I get Oliver, and I'm like, Pete just pissed all over my leg. Come help me. So we run out to the living room, and there is pee on every piece of furniture, every wall, all over the floor. This man pissed.
He marked his territory.
He marked his territory on everything. He had to piss like 2 gallons. Like,
oh my God.
It was everywhere. And then we see him in a fetal position next to the front door. He's just laying there in a pile of his throw up. There's throw up everywhere too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then I left early the next day. I said, fuck this,
of course,
dude. After all that he called me, like,
and peeing on you.
And peeing on me, like, what?
Right, yeah.
Dude, getting peed on is not fun.
No, I've been peed on before.
That shit's...
When I was a kid, though.
Shit's not good.
No, it's not.
He didn't even apologize, wouldn't listen to the voice memo I had of him. He cussed me out for like 2 hours. I just have it on recording. And I was just not saying anything. Because, like, I'm nice. Like, we didn't have a toxic relationship. We didn't fight. Like, after that, I kind of realized how bipolar he was and toxic. And I was like, F that. But, yeah, he peed on me.
That's
like
insane.
a dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It was...
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you. You know, there's a fire hydrant joke in there somewhere. But, yeah, I'm not going to figure that out right now.
Wow.
Do you have any, like, really crazy ex-boyfriend high school stories?
My high school was pretty up. It was pretty much a cult.
What?
Yeah, I went to a private Catholic school.
Oh,
Atlanta, and it was pretty much called a cult. I mean, I would call it a cult, honestly. Everyone that I went there with, they've been there from 7th to 12th grade, and their brothers and sisters, their cousins, their aunts and uncles, their parents, and grandparents had all gone to this school.
What the fuck?
And, like, they call it the long blue line. Tell me that's not a fucking cult.
That is a fucking cult.
Yeah.
If I've ever heard of one.
I mean, in the mass, I'd never been Catholic before. My parents just put me in a private school in Atlanta because the public schools had, like, a huge scandal, like, 2 years before. So a lot of people were rushing to private schools. They put me in this private school. I did not fit in there. I did not fit in. I've been to public school my entire life. And when I tell you, these kids were spoiled, rotten, white, privileged assholes. Oh, my God. I would call them the scum of the earth, honestly, for the most part. Most of the people there were awful. There were some good people. There were. And, it was a good education. I'll give them that. There were some perks to going there, but I hated it for the most part. They started drug testing us.
Oh, what?
Yeah, junior year, they started drug testing us randomly.
That's
yeah. And it's funny because they would have like a round of like random drug tests, and it would be out of nowhere in the middle of the morning. And they would pick like 2 or 3 known stoners and then a couple of like super innocent kids. So it looked random.
Oh my God.
And eventually they got to all of the stoners. And I was like a known stoner at my school. And so, well, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I had a lot of people coming up and asking me for weed. So there was that. But I was always late. And so I knew the attendance lady. Like, she was one of my best friends, Miss She was awesome. I come in late and she was like, Liv, you can't go to class, you're getting drug tested. And I was like, no way. No, stop. You're playing a prank on me. Miss stop. Don't play like this. It's too early for that. It's too early. I just woke up, 30 minutes ago. Don't play with me. She goes, no, seriously, I have to walk you there right now. It's in the gym. So we go to the gym and we're on our way there. And this woman is a devout Catholic, okay? So we're walking there, we're walking up the stairs, and she goes, Liv, what's going to show up on this drug test? Please tell me you're going to be clean. She knew I was not going to be clean. She knew I was not going to be clean.
She knew what you were
She already knew, and I said, no, ma'am, I am not. I will show up for nicotine and weed. I mean, I was already going to be caught, so I was like, all right, the cat's are out of the bag. So you might as well know. When I tell you this shocked me, this woman goes, Jesus, fuck. I could not stop laughing. This devout Catholic woman who had spent her whole life in this Catholic system just went, Jesus fucking Christ. And I was like, oh my God, that made my day. I don't even care. I'm about to get busted. Miss Rogers, the freaking attendance lady, was just like, fuck, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, come on.
She's a normal human.
That's like breaking every book and every rule in the book. That's right there.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. She was like, you're fucked. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she was like, don't tell anyone I said that. But yeah, good luck. And I was like, what do you mean good luck? There's no point in me passing this. It's funny because I carry around this packet of Serto that if you drink like 2 hours before you get tested, then you can show up clean on a drug test. And I would carry it around in my backpack. So if there was any mention of drug testing, I would take it immediately. But since I came in late, I didn't have the chance to take it, and it wouldn't have kicked in time.
Oh.
They don't let you go into the bathroom in between. So anyway, I get there, and the dean of students is looking at me, and she goes, and I went into the bathroom, and I was actually, before I went into the bathroom, I was sitting there waiting, and I was just thinking about what my parents are going to say. And I was like, oh my God. They already knew, but they thought I had stopped, or they had at least hoped I had stopped. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm grounded for the next 5 years of my life. And, I'm definitely going to have to do some, community service or some random Catholic school shit for smoking weed, which is legal, in like a lot of states. And it's proven to be really medically useful, just by the way.
Yeah.
It's helping me with all my freaking mental health issues. We should get to that later.
Yes.
Because I've got some stories on that.
Yes.
And I was waiting, and I was like, okay, I'm tired of waiting. I'm missing my class. And so I walk up to the dean of students, and I was like, I really have to go. I mean, it's really bad. I already drank like 4 bottles of water so I could go to the bathroom, and I can't hold it any longer. I was just tired of waiting, So so she was like, okay, go ahead, go on. Because there were like 8 people in front of me.
Yeah.
So I go in and I walk out, and she was like, hey, Liv, before you go, I'm just wondering, is anything going to come up? And in my head, I was like, I should say F you and walk away right now. But instead, I'm just going to be honest. And I said, yeah, no, I smoke marijuana and nicotine on a daily basis. And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, wow. And I said, yeah. And I turned on a beat and walked my ass right out of there and went straight to class. Did not give a flying fuck. That was I might as well flicked her off. I mean, she was speechless.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's funny though, because I only graduated from that school because of COVID. in the middle of my senior year is when COVID hit. So we all went online. And once you get tested positive, then you have to do all these things. Like you have to go to community service. You have to go to this, like, one of those houses that for drug addicts. They go and
you have to go to a safe and sober house?
No. You go and visit one, and they tell you their stories, basically. So you have to, like, get, like, scared into never touching a drug.
Bro,
yeah.
For weed?
Yeah, just for smoking weed.
Oh my God.
And so you have to do, like, all of these things, and you have to test negative for everything multiple times before you can graduate, or else you can't graduate.
Out of that school
no, I know.
Fast.
And before they could, so they never got the chance to drug test me again. Me, my best friend Grace, and this other guy Colby, we all got caught around the same time. And then COVID hit, and this is our senior year, you know. And everyone had been telling us, you know, you're never going to graduate. You know, you're so addicted to both of them that you're not going to be able to stop. You all smoke every day. You know, you're fucked. And I remember vividly at graduation, I'm standing there with Grace, and we were the only girls not wearing white dresses because fuck that.
Yeah.
And we're standing there, and the dean of students walks up to us, and he goes, ladies. He was a very serious man. His name was Mr. Trapney. I called him the Trap Monster. And so the Trap Monster walks up to me, and he goes, ladies. And he nods at both of us. And I was like, hello, Mr. Trapney. How are you? How have you been? I hope you've been healthy and happy. And he goes, congratulations on making it to the big day. And me and my friend were both speechless, and we were like, thank you, Mr. Trapney, sir. And he goes, very lucky you two are. And walks away.
No.
Dead ass. I was like, whew. Wow, it kind of set in a little bit. I'm really lucky to be here. I would not be graduating from this school that I just put my entire life and soul into for the last 4 years. Because that school was hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, it was made up of geniuses, athletes. I mean, okay, these kids had made all A's, played 3 sports, were in at least 1 play a year, and, like, were the, you know, senior committee officers and whatever. Like, they were all in at least 4 or 5 clubs. I mean, these are, like, the kids who rule the planet.
Oh, my
and, you know,
God.
so that's why I never fit in. I was like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe went to 1 or 2 clubs. They would have, like, specific time set up for people to go to clubs because they couldn't go to them after school because they had their sports. They had their 3 practices. They had winter, spring, you know, fall or whatever sports. They would play all of them. All of them ran. I mean, they were like, not tracks.
Cross country?
Yeah, cross country tracks and, like, trails. That's what I'm calling it. All around the campus for these runners. I mean, they would run like 10 miles a day. And just, like, during their period breaks, they would go and run miles at a time. I mean, when I tell you I've never been able to run a full mile without stopping in my entire life, never once has that happened. Never once could I run an entire mile without stopping. So, you know, and I'm almost 20. So, I mean, these kids are doing it daily just for fun.
Oh my God.
They're like, it's a runner's high. I'm like, all right, well, I like different other kinds of highs. So,
see, that's the thing. I ran cross country and track, but I've never felt a runner's high, and I hate running. I only did it because all my guy friends were doing it, and I just wanted to have fun, and I was, like, so bored after school. I've never actually enjoyed running, and I cannot picture, like, I would never run that much, especially at break. Like,
yeah, no.
Oh, hell no. All of the cross-country meets, my friend and I would just kind of walk because we were there for the trips and stuff, you know. I would try a little bit, but this one time for track, I signed up for a 2-mile that I forgot about, and I had to do the 2-mile high as fuck on edibles.
Oh my God.
That shit was so bad.
I bet.
I was this close to getting disqualified because I laid down after my 3rd lap, and
you laid down on the track?
Yeah, yes. I literally collapsed. Like, you know how there's grass on the middle part of the track? I collapsed and was just laying there, staring up at the sky like, I give up. Like, 3 laps in out of 8 laps. But you know what happened?
What?
They could have just let me, you know, I would have been fine if they would just let me lay there.
Did someone come get you?
My fucking friends on the team ran over, pushed my body back up and said, "You have to finish."
Oh.
And I finished in last, and I was 3 seconds behind the last girl, so I was laying down for probably 40 seconds to a minute.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, but all the girls passed me in that time. And I caught up to the last one by 3 seconds.
Wow. That's impressive, actually. Props to you.
Honestly, and on edibles, too.
Yeah.
Like, my legs were jello.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely Superman right there.
Yes. I want to do Molly.
I know Molly.
Yeah. Mental health.
Let's get into it. Mental health.
Let's get straight into it.
Real shit.
So, Liv, I have a question for you.
I'm here.
How important is mental health?
It's 100% the most important in the human body. Without good mental health, you cannot have good physical health. You cannot have good relationships. You're never going to be happy with yourself. And you will never have a fulfilled life. Period. End of point. That's it.
Period. And if only my parents would agree with that
No,
statement.
yeah. I mean, the generations before us don't understand how deathly important mental health is.
And that's the craziest thing to me, because to our generation, it's like the number one most important.
Right.
Because
all of us struggle with it.
Yeah.
All of us.
All of us. And all of our parents just don't give a fuck.
No, they don't.
My dad doesn't even believe in anxiety or depression. Like, he doesn't even believe it's real.
Yeah, I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was in 6th grade, and my dad didn't believe I actually had it until I started living with him in 9th grade.
That's
like,
so insane.
He was just like, why are you taking medication? I'm like, because my brain is wired completely differently than everyone else's, and I can't focus for shit.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, well, your grades are fine. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
And it seems like that's the only thing they care about. They care more about grades than their kids' mental health.
Right. And that goes way back in, like, education and the terrible education system that we have today.
So true. You've had some, we both had battles with mental health, especially in the past year.
Right.
What is something that you've learned about mental health in the past year?
So, I would say the biggest thing is psychosis. Honestly, like, when you hear psychosis and, like, psychotic, you think of a crazy person who's talking to themselves, and, you know, you can't have a good conversation with them. You know, they're off the charts. They're dangerous. You know, psychotic people. They're scary. You know, all of these things. And that's what a lot of people think of. I actually went through psychosis a couple months ago. It was like 6 or 7 months. Started last December. So it started a year ago, actually, and it didn't end until June of this year. And I remember it started. So I'll give you a little background. I just moved to California. I was by myself, 18 years old, fresh out of high school. Didn't know if anybody in California, all by myself. And it's in the middle of COVID, so I had no way of meeting anyone. I'm a super social person. My roommates stopped talking to me. They were being hella toxic, and they did not want to talk to me. And
Facts.
so
I've witnessed this.
No, yeah, you did. And I had no way of making friends. You know, I was working a full-time job, and that was it. That was my life. And going home to an apartment in a very strange place, no one to show me around. You know, I had no idea where I was, what I was doing with my life, no idea who I was as a human being. Because for the first time in my life, I had no one reassuring me of who I was.
Totally.
You know, so all of these questions are like, wait, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, who am I actually? You know, without all of these people telling me who I am, you know? Because the people that love you are like, oh, you're such a good person, you know? And that makes you feel good. You know, it reassures you of who you are.
Definitely.
But when you don't have that anymore, when you've had it for the first 18 years of your life and suddenly it's all gone, you know, you have to do a serious self-assessment.
Yeah.
And that was a lot more than I signed up for when I moved out to California. You know, and I had no one. Recently, I've actually been diagnosed with extreme depressive disorder. So it means I'm regularly depressed, like regular atypical people, neurotypical people get depressed. I'm like that normally all the time. But then when I get really, really depressed, like I was when I first moved here, I can show signs of psychosis, which psychosis is seeing things, hearing things, voices that, you know, aren't there, and believing things, like being paranoid. So I was a pretty heavy stoner for a really long time, all 4 years of high school. And then, of course, when I got out to California, I immediately got my medical card, was going to the dispensary every week, smoking all day, every day. And I started getting really paranoid every time I smoked. So then I stopped smoking as much, and I was still paranoid. And when I say I was paranoid, I remember the first time I recognized it. I was home, and this bitch roommate that I had, her name was Viv. She's like my evil nemesis, Viv to live, you know?
Yep. Viv.
Viv. So she moved into the room next to me, and I heard her talking shit about me. The whole night, I was just laid awake, and I could hear it through the wall. She was talking shit about me to her girlfriend, and I was just crying and just silently listening, and I was just letting her talk about me like the whole night, and that's what I fell asleep to, was crying myself to sleep, right? And I woke up the next morning, and I talked to my other roommate about it, and I said, Kelly, Viv was talking so much shit about me last night. I heard it all through the wall, and it was awful. I've never heard anyone talk about me that way before. You know, I don't even know what to do. Should I talk to her? And Kelly's eyes get really wide, and then she gets really quiet. And I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, Viv wasn't home last night. She was in Folsom at her girlfriend's place.
What the fuck?
There was no one home last night. And I lost my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, I'm hearing voices. Oh, God, here it goes. I knew it was bad, but now it's officially scary level bad. You know, so I realized I started hearing this voice, and it sounded so real. And that was so scary because I could not tell the difference because I knew their voices.
Yeah.
You know, and these voices that I started hearing for the next couple months, they were all voices that I knew. And so they sounded exactly like the person from just in a different room. They were muffled, you know, but I could still make out what they were saying. And when it was terrifying. They were like picking apart my life and breaking me down and, you know, talking about every little thing. And in my head, I'm like, that's not what I'm thinking. You know, you don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you guys know me, blah, blah. And I'm like fighting these voices in my head. And I was convinced for 6 months that there were people in my life talking about me 24/7. Every time I wasn't within hearing distance, or I was like barely within hearing distance, it literally sounded like I was hearing them. Like me talking to you right now, that's how it sounded.
That's insane.
It wasn't in my head.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was coming through my ears.
Like it was real happening right
Oh,
now.
yeah. And then I would like be driving, or I would be walking somewhere, or I'd just be standing at work. You know, I work at a deli, so I'd be slicing meat, and I would see something out of the corner of my eye, someone standing there and pointing at me, and I would look back and it wasn't there.
Right.
That was really scary when I started hearing things and seeing things. The voices, you know, I started getting used to them. I got really suicidal. I mean, I've dealt with, you know, suicidal thoughts my whole life, but I've never actually thought about doing it because, you know, I'm always like, okay, there's a lot more I can do with my life. And that's, if I could ever tell one person that is thinking themselves, if I could tell them one thing, is that there is so much more to life that you don't know will happen to you. There are so many times where you get at your lowest, and when you're at your highest, you will look back and think, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't do it. You know, that's where I am now. That's where I am today. When I tell you my roommate's cat, Kelly, saved me, I was in the bathroom. I had all my pills laid out. I had all of them laid out. I had like a, sorry, I'm not trying to get like too deep. I don't, you don't have to put this in.
I love this.
But, and I was hearing those voices talking to me, and they were telling me to do it. And they were like, she won't do it. I don't care. And sometimes there would be like someone, my voices that would stick up for me and be like, I can't believe you're doing this to her. Stop talking shit about her, you know, and all of this stuff. And I'd be like, all right, someone's rooting for me. Okay. You know, and I was scared to tell anyone about it because, you know, when I would try to tell someone about it, they'd be like, no, I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
You know, and they would just kind of look at me with this one look. Everyone gets this look when you tell them that you're hearing voices. And it's this look of like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this information? Do I help you? Do I tell someone? Do I laugh?
Yeah.
You know, do I give you a hug? Like, people don't know what to do when you're telling them about your mental health.
Right.
Genuinely, you know, and you're like, you know, and then people say sorry because that's the only thing they think that helps, you know, but it's not their fault.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, so I couldn't really talk to anyone about it. And anyways, this cat came in and he would not leave me alone, you know? And I was like, well, fuck, I can't myself in front of a cat. I mean, that's just mean, you know? And I was like, oh, well, I also don't want my roommates to come home and find me. I mean, that would scar them. Then they would probably end up doing it to them, you know? Like, then they would be traumatized. God, I don't want to be fucking a burden, you know? All this shit. So I didn't end up doing it. And it kept getting worse. And I told my roommate about it finally. I was like, this is what I'm going. I mean, it's getting really bad. It's getting really bad. I can't sleep. I haven't been sleeping. I haven't been eating. I lost like 50 pounds in a month. Yeah, it was really bad. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I was freakishly depressed. I couldn't smoke weed anymore to help.
Right.
You know, my anxiety medication wasn't helping. And so she took me to this, it was a urgent care for mental health. And I walked in, they were beautifully nice. I forgot to mention that before this, I did a ton of research on institutions. I was going to check myself in. And I thought about it for weeks. I told my manager, you know, because I had breakdowns at work.
I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. I told my parents. My dad was like, why are you doing that? I tried to explain it to him. Yeah, no, and my mom was like, have you never seen a movie? Don't you know what they do to you in those places? I hung up on her and blocked her immediately. I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
You really think yelling at your child who's telling you that she's going to check herself in is the best option? No.
Yeah.
So
no.
Anyway, I told my roommate all of that. She goes, okay, before you check yourself in, you know, and I had it set up so I would use all my savings to do that. She was like, let's try to find a better option. So she takes me to this mental health urgent care. And for free, they took me in. They talked to me. They said, what are you going through? What's going on? They asked me all the right questions. And I told them everything. And, I mean, I was just so eager to get help. I mean, I couldn't deal with it anymore. And it was funny. I talked to this one woman. They sent me to another woman. And they were like, okay, here are your list of resources. They take your insurance. These are all of your things. These are all the things you can do. They gave me I had like a booklet when I left of all of these pages of resources and ways to help me, and places to reach out to, places that are free, places that would take my insurance. I mean, it saved my life. And so then they took me to this clinical psychiatrist, and she was talking to me. And it's funny because I was in the room with her, and I was literally like, do you hear those people in the other room? Their voices are muffled. You can't tell what they're saying, but you can hear their voice. And she said, yeah. And I said, I can tell what they're saying. In my head, I can hear what they're saying, and they're calling me a crazy person. And she said, okay. And, you know, they were astounded because apparently I was, like, really polite when I was in there. She was, like, being really nice to me. She loved how nice I was being. And she was like, okay, I'm going to get you some help. So she put me on this medication, and it was for schizophrenia and bipolar. And because those have the same symptoms as psychosis, so which is hearing voices and all of those things. So I was on that, and it didn't make the voices go away, but it made me able to bear them. Like, I was okay with hearing that. I was just, like, walking around. I was hearing them, and it didn't matter to me.
Right.
You know, like, I could still hear them, but it wasn't registering with me the same way. And I wasn't taking it to heart. You know, I was just like, all right, fuck you guys. Talk shit about me if you want. Whatever. You know? And, God, that pill was amazing, though. I mean, the side effects make you sleepy. They make you freakishly tired and super hungry. So I gained like 60 pounds, and I slept for like 15 hours a day. I literally slept every hour that I wasn't working.
Whoa.
I would go to work for 9 hours out of the day and then go home and go right back to sleep.
Whoa.
On my days off, I slept for 20 hours.
Oh my goodness.
20 hours. And in the hours that I wasn't sleeping, I was eating for the full hour.
Yo.
I mean, I was going through twice as many groceries. I was eating my face off.
Like close to steroids.
Yeah, and it was good, but also like really scary because I'd never seen that kind of like happen to me before. Right. It felt good though because I felt like I was catching up on everything I had missed in the last couple months.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't really helping. It actually wasn't until I finally told her about all of this, and she said, okay, come home. If you still need to, I'll take you to an institution. So I came home, and I went home for like a month and a half. And
that's when you went home to Tennessee.
Yeah, that's when I went home to Tennessee, to my mom's house in Tennessee. And it was really scary because I actually heard her talking for the first night. And then I stopped taking all of my medications, cold turkey. I was on 4 at this time, cold turkey. And within a week, they went away. And I have heard them occasionally since, like every once in a while. But it's when I'm feeling really paranoid. But now, you know, after about 4 or 5 months, I've started smoking weed again lightly. You know, my tolerance went away and all this stuff. But I'm feeling, you know, a lot better. And that's just what I want to say is that there's always an out. There is always a way to get better and to fix your mental health.
I love that. And the fact that you were able to get all those resources, and a lot of people do have bad experiences in psych wards. I have a friend, Allie, who's been in and out of a lot of psych wards, and she has some pretty crazy horror stories. So to know that there's people out there who are giving those resources and who are like, oh, your insurance does this, and let's get you this. Here's packets. That's so important, and I hope and I wish that more places are like that in the future, especially for mental health. It's just the most important.
Yeah.
Also, something else I wanted to say, I remember the first stages of your psychosis. I remember we'd be in your room, and you would ask me if I could hear what you were hearing, and I would always say no. And you're right, like, I wouldn't know how to respond.
Yeah.
And all that, and
it's a lot to put on someone.
it is.
You know,
but
the average Joe doesn't know how to respond.
yeah, the average Joe. But also, like, you being my best friend, I just wanted to help you, and I felt like I couldn't. So just to know that you got those resources and that support, it just makes me really happy and gives me the chills, honestly.
Well, you were the most understanding out of everyone. You know, like, you didn't look at me like I was crazy. You were just worried.
Oh, yeah, because I feel like I've definitely never experienced psychosis, obviously, but I, like, even where I live now with my cousins and my roommates, like, I will hear them talking, and I think they're talking shit about me, like, but I know that's rooted from childhood trauma and, like, my mom talking shit, you know, like, right next to my bedroom window, and her boyfriend, and being, like, abusive in that way. We got to talk about trauma next time. Trauma on the brain.
For sure.
That's insane. But we'll save that for next time, because Liv is just freaking awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and do you have an Instagram that you want to plug in? Or
I actually don't. I don't really use Instagram anymore.
Okay,
No,
that's all right.
I'm not for that social media. We should talk about social media next time, too.
Yes. Well, you will be seeing more of Liv on this podcast, so thank you for watching Your Friends Podcast. This is Pablo. I'm Megan, and that's Liv. And, yeah, have a great night. And, yeah, Liv, you got anything to say?
Y'all be safe out there. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Woohoo. All right.
Oh.
Hell yeah. Doesn't it feel like therapy?
It's therapy. I'm telling you.
Literally.
It is.